A solemn silence has fallen across the nation, broken only by the soft, steady rain outside the Sandringham Estate, where the world now watches and waits. Just moments ago, the palace confirmed the heartbreaking turn the nation had feared with a stark 9-word statement that has sent a ripple of dread through the public consciousness. His Majesty's condition is now under intensive observation. This was not a routine medical bulletin, but a terse, carefully worded signal that the monarchy now stands on the precipice of profound change. Behind the black iron gates, a symbol that tonight feels heavier than ever, reporters gather as the rhythmic clicking of camera shutters punctuates the tense quiet, each flash reflecting off the polished royal crest. Inside Clarence House, sources paint a picture of a reign already grinding to a halt. The king's private study, once the bustling heart of his duties, has been cleared of his daily correspondence, and his personal diary, a testament to a lifetime of service, lies open on his desk, its future pages now hauntingly empty, a silent testament to the sudden and severe shift that has placed the entire institution on high alert. The atmosphere, already heavy with dread, has taken on a chilling and more final quality, a silence broken only by the haunting whisper of a state secret that has sent chills across the nation. Senior aides have confirmed that before his condition worsened, the king himself signed one final momentous instruction, a sealed document now guarded within Sandringham's private vault, its contents known only to the trusted triumvirate of Princess Anne, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and Prince William. This is no ordinary piece of correspondence. It is said to contain the king's definitive wishes for the monarchy should he be unable to lead, a contingency plan made personal by his own hand. The gravity of this act is magnified by the last somber entry found in his personal diary, dated simply, "The burden continues," a poignant testament to a sovereign's unwavering duty even in the face of his own decline. While no one outside that vault knows the document's exact contents, the phrase from a palace insider, "It changes everything," hangs in the air, transforming a private health crisis into a pivotal moment that threatens to redefine the crown's future and reshape the line of succession in an instant. As Britain holds its breath, questioning whether this marks the beginning of the end for King Charles's reign or the dawn of a new era foreseen by the late Queen, the true gravity of the situation becomes clear only when looking back several months. Long before the palace's tragic confirmation, subtle signs began to emerge in a quiet reshuffling of the monarch's famously rigid schedule. The king, known for his relentless routine of dawn correspondence, back-to-back briefings and nightly red boxes, began carving out an unusual amount of private time, his once-packed calendar gradually thinning. Initially dismissed as the sensible pacing of a man who ascended the throne at 73, these adjustments now appear in a more ominous light, the early quiet steps of a sovereign consciously preparing for an uncertain future. This deliberate slowing down stands in stark contrast to the immense burden of the crown he inherited from a mother defined by her stamina, suggesting a man not just conserving his energy, but perhaps methodically putting his affairs in order, a prelude to the sealed document that now holds the monarchy's future in its silence, bringing the nation to a poignant and perilous threshold. The carefully maintained facade of a monarch merely pacing himself was, in reality, a meticulously orchestrated operation to conceal a grave and private health battle. Behind the scenes, King Charles was undergoing a relatively experimental targeted immunotherapy trial at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, a desperate bid to halt the progression of a rare form of lymphoma, a truth shielded from the public under the benign label of routine health maintenance. His visits to the cutting-edge cancer facility were conducted with military discretion, often via helicopter in the early morning hours, transforming what appeared to be peaceful countryside retreats into medically supervised interventions. At the heart of this delicate operation was Queen Camilla, who became the unwavering steward of the crisis. Her public image of a supportive, smiling consort masked the reality of her ironclad control behind palace walls, where she managed operations and shielded her husband from intrusion with the focus of a hawk, controlling all access and single-handedly holding the fragile threads of the monarchy together as her husband fought his private war. Behind the carefully controlled public facade, a profound and quiet transition of power was already underway, orchestrated under the shadow of the king's declining health. Queen Camilla maintained an iron grip on access, ensuring no one, not even Prince William, saw the king without her explicit approval, effectively becoming the gatekeeper of the monarchy. William, in turn, began to subtly assume the mantle of sovereignty, leading state visits, holding private meetings with the Prime Minister, and notably stepping in for his father at the Commonwealth Leadership Forum, a clear signal to insiders that he wasn't just standing in, but standing up as a monarch in waiting. Yet the most pivotal figure operating in the shadows was Princess Anne, the family's bedrock of discretion. It was she who acted as the bridge to the past, retrieving a confidential letter from the late Queen Elizabeth's private archive at Windsor, a document believed to contain the late Queen's final wisdom. Though its contents remained secret, one underlined phrase, "If duty ever outweighs health, let clarity protect the crown," reportedly struck the king with profound force. After reading it twice during a meeting in early September, Charles set it down and uttered the simple, weighted acknowledgement, "She always knew." From that moment forward, a palpable shift occurred. The king grew quiet and contemplative. His desk was cleared of clutter, and his focus turned inward, signaling that he had received not just a mother's note, but a sovereign's final command, setting the stage for the earth-shattering decision now guarded in the Sandringham vault. In the ensuing weeks, King Charles retreated into a profound and telling silence, spending long hours gazing from the tall windows of Sandringham's north wing, a room steeped in the legacy of his mother, Queen Elizabeth, who had herself governed from there in her early reign. It was during this period of quiet contemplation that the most consequential act of his reign was finalized, a sealed, handwritten instruction, drafted by his own hand and stored within a cedar-lined box in the private vault beneath Sandringham Chapel, outlining his wishes should he become medically unfit to rule. The fact that the only three people privy to its contents, Princess Anne, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and Prince William, were now gathered in the same room signaled that the pieces of a constitutional transition were falling into place. The crown had not yet passed, but the king's voice, though growing faint, was setting events in motion that would echo louder than any speech. The first chilling public indication of the crisis came not from a palace bulletin, but from a blink-and-you-miss-it moment at a September charity reception, where the ever-poised monarch stumbled slightly and appeared drawn, a lapse dismissed by commentators as fatigue, but known by aides to be the result of 3 sleepless nights. This subtle crack in the royal facade was soon followed by the clandestine nighttime arrival at Sandringham of an unmarked medical transport van and the royal physician's car, confirming that behind the grandeur, a private and dire battle was underway. This meticulously crafted narrative portrays a monarchy in the throes of a profound and quiet revolution, where the true transfer of power occurs not in a grand ceremony but through hushed conversations and medical bulletins. The core of the drama revolves around the sealed document, a handwritten instruction from the king that serves as both a personal abdication of his duties and a strategic blueprint for the future. Its secrecy, and the exclusive knowledge of Anne, William, and the Archbishop underscoring the gravity of a transition meant to protect the crown with clarity as the late Queen advised. The characters embody distinct facets of the crisis: Charles, the contemplative monarch grappling with his legacy and attempting to shield the institution from the chaos of his decline; Anne, the steadfast bridge between eras, delivering hard truths and retrieving historical wisdom to guide the present; William and Catherine, the reluctant successors being thrust into their future roles, their every public move now scrutinized as a rehearsal for sovereignty; and Camilla, the protective gatekeeper managing the fragile boundary between the king's private struggle and public duty. The narrative's power lies in its contrast between the public facade of resting and the frantic private reality of a family and an institution bracing for an imminent end, culminating in the chilling 3:24 a.m. phone call that shifts the crisis from a physical ailment to a constitutional one, signaling that the time for preparation is over and the era of King Charles III has reached its poignant, inevitable conclusion. This segment represents the poignant and constitutional climax of the narrative, where the king's personal medical crisis formally triggers a preordained transition of power, masterfully blending deep emotional tragedy with unprecedented political innovation. The king's heartbreaking confusion, asking if his mother is still awaiting her coronation, serves as the definitive symbolic moment where the monarch's cognitive decline crosses from a private ailment into a public constitutional necessity, forcing the palace to enact the sealed instruction. The contents of this document reveal Charles's profound legacy, not a traditional abdication, but the creation of a new mechanism for interim authority, a sovereign voluntarily stepping aside for the institution's stability, thereby redefining royal duty for the modern age. The swift clinical execution of the plan, the lockdown, the legal reviews, the transfer to William, contrast sharply with the raw human emotion, most powerfully embodied by Camilla's departure. Her flight to Florence is framed not as abandonment, but as a defeat. She represents the old guard's view that power must be held until death, making her absence the final symbolic surrender to a new, more pragmatic era, where the preservation of the crown itself outweighs the tenure of any single monarch. The narrative thus concludes that Charles's ultimate act of kingship was not in how he reigned, but in how he consciously and deliberately relinquished power, ensuring continuity through his own sacrifice. This concluding segment masterfully frames the unprecedented transition not as a abrupt ending, but as a nuanced, soft succession, a constitutional innovation where a living monarch voluntarily steps aside due to cognitive incapacity, thereby redefining the very nature of royal duty for the modern era. The public's experience of this history tipping forward through a stark newspaper headline, "The Crown Pauses," is brilliantly contrasted with the delicate, clandestine operations of the quiet transition protocol unfolding behind palace walls, highlighting the stark difference between public perception and private reality. The narrative's genius lies in its direct engagement with the audience, transforming them from passive observers into active participants by posing the profound ethical question, "Would you have opened that letter?" This invitation to Judge William's impossible choice personalizes the constitutional dilemma, making the abstract concept of duty tangible as a burden meant for someone else's final chapter. Ultimately, the story concludes by cementing Charles's legacy not through his reign, but through his conscious sacrifice. His final act of sovereignty was to create a mechanism for its own suspension, ensuring the monarchy's continuity by gracefully yielding its power, a move that is portrayed as both a tragic personal surrender and the ultimate fulfillment of a sovereign's duty to protect the institution above himself. This final segment crystallizes the narrative's core theme of a soft succession, portraying a monarchy navigating an unprecedented constitutional crisis through a carefully balanced, if emotionally fraught, redistribution of roles. Prince William's assumption of power is characterized not by triumphalism, but by the solemn receipt of a heavy burden, his physical fatigue and restrained demeanor visually symbolizing a leader focused on duty rather than prestige. The establishment of the informal dual regency with Princess Anne proves to be a masterstroke of practical governance, combining William's public-facing role in stabilizing morale with Anne's unparalleled expertise in managing the intricate machinery of state and church. Meanwhile, Catherine evolves into a vital symbol of continuity and comfort, her public engagements echoing the steadfast presence of a wartime monarch and providing a necessary emotional anchor for the nation. However, this new order is shadowed by the consequential rift created by Camilla's departure, which is framed not as mere absence, but as an active dissent. Her belief that the transition was a premature surrender underscores the painful human conflict behind the constitutional facade, revealing a deep personal and philosophical divide over loyalty to the man versus the institution, and leaving a legacy of tension that challenges the very stability the soft succession was designed to ensure. This concluding segment masterfully resolves the constitutional and moral crisis by invoking the ultimate authority of the late Queen, using her posthumous letter as a divine sanction that legitimizes the entire soft succession and quells any lingering dissent. The revelation of Elizabeth II's handwritten missive, advising that the crown is not kept by holding on but by knowing when to hand over, provides an unassailable moral and historical weight to Charles's decision and William's new role, transforming the transition from a controversial power shift into a fulfillment of a sacred, preordained mandate. This crucial development successfully sways public and international opinion, framing the unprecedented move not as a failure but as a courageous act of deliberate design, a theme echoed in the respectful statements from global powers like the White House and the Vatican. The narrative simultaneously ties up the internal conflict by definitively closing Camilla's failed power play. Her isolation and the resignation of her aides cement her marginalization, proving that her vision for a regency was out of step with the late Queen's wisdom and the institutional consensus. Ultimately, the story concludes by presenting this crisis as the monarchy's most modern test. It demonstrates that the institution's ultimate strength lies not in rigidly clinging to power, but in its ability to adapt its most ancient traditions with grace and foresight, ensuring its survival through a carefully choreographed transfer of authority that prioritizes the crown's stability above any single individual, even the king. This concluding segment masterfully resolves the narrative by demonstrating how the unprecedented soft succession becomes a legitimized new model for the monarchy, achieved through a powerful trifecta of constitutional, public, and symbolic validation. The story illustrates that such a profound change required alignment across all facets of the establishment, constitutionally, through Parliament's symbolic session and the global reactions, which acknowledged William's authority while reigniting necessary debates about the Crown's modern role publicly, through the overwhelming 71% polled empathy that framed the transition not as a power grab, but as a respectful choice. a sentiment poignantly highlighted by Charles's own vulnerable question, "Are they angry?" and the reassuring response that the nation was proud, and symbolically through the supreme moral authority of the late Queen's letter, which sanctified the principle of knowing when to hand over, thereby neutralizing old guard resistance and Camilla's dissent. The final potent image of the imperial state crown being moved from public display at the Tower to the background of Windsor for cleaning serves as the ultimate metaphor. The monarchy itself is undergoing a necessary, deliberate period of recalibration and preservation, its power not diminished but placed in reserve, awaiting a future coronation that will now begin a reign already tempered by the profound lessons of a graceful surrender. This final segment masterfully captures the culmination of the soft succession by contrasting the quiet, solemn resolution inside the palace with the explosive, divided public reaction outside, ultimately highlighting how the monarchy's survival hinges on navigating both. The poignant image of Anne and William sharing a silent look in the Sandringham drawing room symbolizes a burden already shouldered, a new dual regency living the future they were preparing for. However, the narrative sharply pivots to show that this internal dignity is immediately met with external chaos. The term soft succession ignites a global media frenzy and a polarized public, ranging from supportive crowds outside Buckingham Palace to a vocal minority decrying a stealth coup on conspiracy forums. This division is crystallized by the unexpected return of Queen Camilla's voice through a personal video message from France, a move that shatters the palace's unified facade and potentially legitimizes the opposition's claims. The narrative thus concludes by posing the ultimate stakes. The monarchy's greatest modern challenge is not merely the transfer of power, but the battle to control its narrative, as the institution must now confront a crisis of perception where tradition clashes with modern necessity and where a queen in exile could wield enough influence to unsettle the very foundation of the new regency before it has even fully solidified. This segment marks the narrative's climactic confrontation, where the meticulously planned soft succession faces its greatest threat, not from constitutional law, but from a deeply personal and public challenge to its legitimacy. Queen Camilla's 97-second video, asserting that "my husband remains the king," successfully weaponizes tradition and emotion, shattering the palace's unified front and igniting a fierce public debate that trends globally under hashtags like #NotMyRegency. The internal reactions, William being visibly shaken, Catherine's furious "so be it," reveal the profound personal betrayal and strategic crisis her defiance creates, threatening to recast the transition as a stealth coup rather than a dutiful act. The resolution arrives not through a PR statement, but through the supreme moral authority of the Archbishop of Canterbury, who strategically re-anchors the crisis in the late Queen's wisdom and the sacred bond between father and son. His public affirmation that the king has entrusted his son masterfully reframes the conflict, transforming it from a power struggle back into a story of familial love and duty, thereby swaying public sentiment and legitimizing William's role. Ultimately, this sequence proves that in the modern age, a monarchy's stability depends on its ability to win the battle of perception, where a single video can unleash chaos, but a timeless symbol of grace and restraint, embodied by the Archbishop and Elizabeth's letter, can ultimately secure the crown's future, even amid real and lingering division. This concluding passage masterfully resolves the overarching narrative by transitioning the monarchy's crisis from a political and public conflict into a profound symbolic act of personal legacy, where King Charles's final gestures ultimately secure the stability of the soft succession. The public and generational divide is succinctly captured by the contrast between the aristocratic old guard, who mourn the broken tradition of crowning a monarch until death, and the younger generation on TikTok, who celebrate the institution's dignified evolution, a tension that finds its ultimate resolution, not in debate, but in a private off-record meeting between Charles and William. This pivotal conversation, which leaves William with the heavy burden of his father's legacy, transforms him from an interim ruler into the designated guardian of a sacred trust, a role solemnly accepted with the hope that he is worthy of carrying it. The most powerful symbolism is reserved for Charles's final request, the movement of the imperial state crown to the Sandringham Chapel, placed beneath the stained glass window associated with his mother. This act is the narrative's thesis. He does not wear it or bequeath it, but reverently positions it as an independent symbol of the institution itself, gifting continuity and demonstrating that his ultimate service was not in holding power, but in consciously and gracefully releasing it. Thus, the monarchy enters its uncharted territory not with the chaos of a coup or the grief of a funeral, but with a clarity and peace that redefines royal duty for the modern age, successfully weathering the storm through a final, unparalleled act of sovereign sacrifice. This final segment masterfully resolves the narrative arc by showcasing how the unprecedented soft succession is ultimately legitimized and absorbed by the nation, transforming a potential constitutional crisis into a reaffirmation of the monarchy's enduring strength through its capacity for dignified evolution. The unified, respectful tone of the British press, from The Guardian's quiet revolution to The Sun's poignant "He's still our king," signals a national consensus that accepts this nuanced transition, a sentiment powerfully cemented by Prince William's first address. His speech brilliantly navigates the complexity of his position by affirming Charles's enduring symbolic sovereignty while grounding his own authority in filial duty, a move that personalizes the constitutional issue and resonates deeply with a global audience. The narrative ties together its thematic threads by showing the key players finding their settled roles. William ascends as the compassionate, modern leader, Anne operates as the unwavering institutional backbone, Camilla recedes into quiet reflection, and Charles himself achieves a saintly peace, his legacy secured not by the length of his reign, but by the profound clarity of his final act. In the end, the monarchy emerges not weakened, but strengthened, having demonstrated that its greatest power lies in its human vulnerability and its ability to navigate an ending that is not a defeat, but a conscious, graceful passing of the torch, thereby ensuring its continuity in a changing world. This concluding passage serves as the powerful thematic culmination of the entire narrative, masterfully transforming a constitutional crisis into a poignant meditation on modern leadership and legacy. The story's resolution hinges on a profound symbolic shift. The monarchy's power is no longer embodied by a crowned king on a throne, but by an unworn crown under glass and a sovereign who leads by letting go. King Charles's final act is framed not as a surrender, but as his ultimate service, a conscious gifting of continuity that redefines strength as the wisdom to tread gently through history. This quiet revolution is validated by the public's embrace as citizens connect not with the pomp of power, but with the humanity of a tired king, solidifying the institution's relevance through its vulnerability. Prince William's role completes this new paradigm. He becomes the steward who carries the weight without grasping the title, embodying a leadership of service and sacrifice. The narrative thus leaves us with a refined and resilient monarchy, one that has discovered its most enduring power not in dominance, but in restraint, and whose greatest legacy is the lesson that true influence endures precisely when it is released with grace. This concluding segment masterfully transcends the specific narrative to become a meta-commentary on the very nature of history and public engagement with the monarchy. By directly breaking the fourth wall and asking you, wherever you're watching this from, the narrative transforms a closed story into a living global conversation, framing the audience not as passive observers but as active participants in defining the monarchy's future meaning. The central, powerful image of a crown that rests not on a head but in the hands of a son waiting serves as the ultimate synthesis of the entire soft succession theme, perfectly capturing the suspended state of the monarchy, an institution in purposeful pause, where authority is held in trust and the future is being thoughtfully prepared rather than seized. The final poetic line, "History isn't just written in coronations, sometimes it's whispered through the walls of Sandringham," elegantly codifies the story's core argument that the most profound transformations are often quiet, human and emotional, rather than loud and ceremonial. This ending successfully achieves a dual purpose. It provides satisfying closure to the emotional arc of Charles's sacrifice and William's burden, while simultaneously opening the story to the world, inviting global interpretation and ensuring the conversation and the channel's relevance continues long after the video ends.